a Delaware Court of Chancery judge dropped a bombshell legal ruling that officially exposed the most embarrassing, malicious use of ChatGPT and AI in the history of the gaming industry. Right now, we are actively looking at a massive $250 million breach of contract orchestrated entirely by a multi-billion dollar CEO who consulted ChatGPT to figure out how to legally fire his own game developers. Like, this isn't just like a rumor or like a forum leak or something like that. Like, this is like an actual like verified public court like documents out there detailing exactly how Krafton, the massive publisher behind PUBG, executed a hostile takeover of Unknown Worlds, a very famous studio behind the underwater survival game Subnautica. Many people know this game. So Subnautica 2 was gearing up for its highly anticipated early access launch. Internal financial projections proved that the game was going to be an absolute smash hit. But instead of celebrating a guaranteed hit and hella money, Krafton's chief executive panicked because a successful launch actually meant he legally owed the original developers a $250 million performance bonus. So in a desperate bid to keep the money and avoid looking like a pushover to his shareholders, he turned to ChatGPT to draft a comprehensive illegal strategy to terminate the founders, seize control of the studio's like Steam publishing rights, and also completely hijack the franchise. Like the corporation tried to use like a language model to steal $250 million from like the exact people who actually build like games like Subnautica that we enjoy. But the legal system caught up to them and just slammed them with a massive highly public reality check. So to understand the magnitude here of like this corporate sabotage, you do have to look directly at the legally binding contract signed during the initial acquisition. So in 2021, Krafton purchased Unknown Worlds for estimated, I think, $500 million, a lot of money. But the contract included a highly specific, heavily leveraged, earn-out clause designed to protect the original creators. So if the developers could successfully launch Subnautica 2 and hit a revenue threshold of 69.8 million by the end of 2025, Krafton was legally obliged to pay a massive $3.12 multiplier on every additional dollar earned, up to a hard cap of 250 million bucks. So as the summer of 2025 approached, Unknown World's internal financial models confirmed the absolute best case scenario here for the studio. Like the sequel was easily going to sell over over I think 1.6 million copies by the fourth quarter, instantly triggering that maximum $250 million payout. But the CEO of Krafton, he actually viewed this incoming success as a complete financial catastrophe. So according to the court document, CEO felt that he had originally overpaid for the studio and explicitly complained in professional communications that honoring the contract made him feel like taken advantage of. So when his own internal legal department explicitly warned him that firing the developers without a valid cause would inevitably lead to a massive lawsuit and severe reputational damage, he completely, bypassed his human lawyers. He opened his browser, logged into good old ChatGPT, and explicitly asked the language model to brainstorm a legal loophole to cancel the 9-figure earnout. Like, that's actually just insane to think about. When ChatGPT initially informed the CEO that the $250 million contract would be difficult to cancel, he refused to accept reality. So under the chatbot's direct guidance, the CEO authorized a secret internal initiative dubbed Project X. The explicit mandate of this corporate task force was to either force the Unknown World founders to surrender their bonus or execute a total hostile takeover of the studio to buy time. ChatGPT generated a complete response strategy to a no-deal scenario, which the multi-billion-dollar publisher followed almost exactly step by step. The algorithm instructed Krafton to quietly secure the publishing rights to Subnautica to completely lock out the original developers out of their own internal pipelines and prepare a preemptive PR campaign to manipulate the public narrative and secure legal defenses. So on July 1st, 2025, Krafton executed the AI's blueprint. They abruptly fired Unknown World CEO Ted Gill alongside the co-founders Charlie Cleveland and Max McGuire, falsely accusing them of trying to force a premature release of the game. So following ChatGPT's exact script to maintain fan trust and undermine any large corporation versus indie backlash, Krafton immediately published a deceptive statement to Subnautica community, claiming that the firings were an inevitable leadership change focused strictly on protecting the quality of the game. They weaponized ChatGPT to steal operational control of game developers of a beloved franchise, completely disregarding the legal protections explicitly written into the developers employment contracts. But the absolute fatal flaw in Krafton's AI generated master plan was the sheer arrogance of believing a chatbot could actually outsmart a federal judge. The Delaware Court of Chancery completely dismantled the publisher's defense, exposing every single layer of the ChatGPT conspiracy to the actual public. Vice Chancellor Lori Will ruled that Krafton's justifications for the terminations were entirely manufactured and strictly pretextual. The court found absolutely no evidence that the Unknown Worlds developers had even tried to act dishonestly or breach their duties. The judge explicitly noted that the only reason the developers had downloaded internal corporate data prior to being fired was out of a completely justified fear that Krafton was actually trying to lock them out of their own life's work, which is exactly what the publisher did. So in a massive unprecedented victory for developer rights, the court ordered Krafton to immediately reinstate the CEO Ted Gill as CEO of Unknown Worlds with full unrestricted operational authority over the early access launch of Subnautica 2. The judge legally, barred Krafton from interfering with the game's release schedule and also ordered the publisher to instantly, restore Gill's access to the Steam backend. Furthermore, the court delivered the ultimate financial, punishment to the Krafton, executives because they maliciously delayed the project to run out of the clock on the contract. The judge legally extended the deadline for $250 million earnout to September 15th, 2026. So Krafton tried to use AI to save $250 million, but instead, they humiliated themselves on a pretty global stage, lost control of the game, and are still legally on the hook for the massive payout. That's a sell right there. This lawsuit proves exactly how far executives are willing to go. They're not just using AI to cut corners on game and save costs. They're trying to use it now to sabotage their own employees and break legal contracts. The executives, they thought they could just get rid of the people who built a very famous and well acclaimed game just to save some money. But the gaming community and legal system rejected their plan. And this massive victory shows that no matter how much money a publisher has, and no matter what an AI chatbot tells them to do, they cannot rewrite reality to fit their greed. Subnautica 2, I'm a low-key buy the game to support it. Seems very good. And yeah, as consumers, we do have to fight back and support the studios against all this corporate stuff. So yeah, if anything, let me know, type a comment, and yeah, I'll see you next time.